Hello everyone, my name is Crash, and I'm about to be 30 years old. Specifically, I'm just 10 days away from being 30, and if you think that's clickbait for the title, you're free to, dislike, comment, leave. I don't know. I'm 10 days away from being 30. I think that's being 30 enough to make this video, because I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about my age for a little while now. And I want to talk a little bit about it, and I want to talk about being a manga fan when you're at that age or when you're reaching this age. So yeah, this video is going to be a little bit of me just thinking and talking a little bit about my life and about my situation. As an old dude that still likes manga and has a manga channel, and mostly it's going to be a little bit of a story of my time as a manga fan, the last 15 or so years of my life. So yeah, I'm a 30-year-old dude, or almost 30-year-old dude, who really loves manga enough that I have a manga collection that you can see in the back. It's not too big, but it is what I have, and a manga fan enough that I have a manga channel that you're watching right now, that I've had it for the past 2 years. And I started reading manga and getting into manga when I was 15. When I was in middle school, some of my friends were watching anime, and that was when I first heard the word. Specifically, I know some of the older dudes in my class were watching Elsing, which was airing on one channel late at night, and they were really enjoying it. I didn't get to watch Elsing, not because my parents didn't allow me, I just didn't get to it. So when I was getting into high school, that was around the same time where anime of Naruto really started popping off, and a lot of my friends, a lot of my classmates were really getting into the anime of Naruto. Because of that, I gotten into One Piece and Naruto and Bleach and a couple of others that note, Full Metal Alchemist and everything like that. Lavina as well, of course, that I like to talk about. And a couple months into watching anime, because I didn't have strong enough connection, I started reading manga. That was when I really firstly fell in love with manga. I started by reading the Shippuden part of Naruto. I watched the first part all in anime, and then I moved into the manga. Then I read Tsubasa Chronicles as well, and eventually I started, Lavina, which was the first manga that I've ever finished. Since then, I really started getting into manga, as you might have guessed. But yeah, back then, a lot of my friends, a lot of people my age, and sometimes just older folks, because I was one of the youngest in my class, they all, at the very minimum, watched Naruto. The first anime convention that I went with was with a friend of mine who cosplayed as Naruto, or actually cosplayed as Sasuke, and even got an award. And I think that was okay for my parents to let me go into that anime convention, because my cool, smart, well-behaved best friend was also into this thing, so it should be okay that I was as well. So my parents never really bugged me too much about it. I never was really bullied about it either. Just a lot of my friends were into it. Not even my friends, the bullies were into Naruto as well. So unless you were one classmate of mine who started running around doing the Naruto run in the corridors with a fedora, if you didn't do that, you'd be fine to watch anime and you wouldn't get bullied, which is what happened to me. And when I got into university, I got into, programming, computer engineering, actually. So a lot of people who got into that, not all of them, but a lot of people who got into that, were also either video game nerds or anime fans or manga fans to some degree. They were super into it, and I just got into it with them. And it was fun. Again, a lot of people my age were watching it, were reading it. I never really felt old back then, I think, especially because of that. And most of, especially the people who I got into in college, the few that I still have in contact with, a lot of them still watch anime. Maybe not as regularly as they used to, but they still watch it. One of them still comments on my channel, so that should tell you all you need. But on the contrary, a lot of people from my high school, especially the ones that I've been meeting lately, they have moved on, and I think it's normal. A lot of those people, a lot of them have moved on. But I remember being in the train, and this was just a little bit before COVID, so it was it was already a couple of years ago, sadly as they seem to be. And a friend of mine, I haven't seen this guy in 10 years. We meet him, and of course we talk about we start talking about our lives and everything. And then he notices that I'm reading Solanin. So he was like, "Oh, you're still reading manga? You're still into the Naruto thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm still into the Naruto thing." And then another friend of mine, more recently, came to my house and was like, "You know, I was going to throw this thing away, but I remember you still like this kind of stuff. So, I'm just leaving this with you." And he left me. That was a friend who did the cosplay, by the way. He left me with a bunch of like Naruto headbands. If you watch the channel, you know that I'm not that big into Naruto. I like Naruto, but I'm not the biggest fan. But of course, because back then that's what we were all watching and we're all fans of it. It makes sense that some of my friends still associate me with that. So yeah, he gave me a bunch of headbands. He gave me some, Spider-Man comic books as well. But I don't know. I felt like him giving me that was him, in a way, moving past that, right? They feel. I always get the feeling that those two that they watch, especially that friend of mine who saw me reading Solanin and was like, "Oh, Naruto." I feel like they still associate that with their younger years, and that that it's not kiddie stuff, but like teen stuff, a phase that you have and move on. And sometimes I feel like they think that I just I haven't moved on, the same way that I haven't moved on from watching Rise Against, from listening to Rise Against, because it's a band that we liked, and now he was like, "Oh, I haven't heard of that since in high school. You're still into that?" Yes, I am still into Rise Against. It's still cool. They still release albums. But more so, I think with anime and manga, it does feel like a lot of people assume, even the ones that get into anime, and manga when they were teens, that will be a phase, that at some certain point in time you'll move out of that. I think for a lot of people, for a lot of you, that is going to be true. Even if you reach a point where you're watching or reading only the one series that you really love, when it ends, maybe you'll just be like, "Okay, I'm done." And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it makes me wonder sometimes if there is something wrong with not moving on. And I never felt too much that until recently, until I came back to the community. First of all, I spent a long time not really interacting with online communities. Having some of my friends that read manga to watch anime was enough. Getting to know some people in conventions and befriending them was enough. I didn't need to join communities. Recently, over the past 3-4 years, that's when I went back and I joined Analysts and Discord and Twitter and started interacting again with the manga and anime community online. And that was when I first started thinking am I too old? So when I'm talking with someone who's 14 about an anime or a manga, yeah, I feel a little bit old because you were born around the same time that I started watching One Piece. I am allowed to feel a little bit old, all right? But it doesn't help that a lot of you still, call me grandpa, call me old, and especially when I start talking about, "Oh, it's been 10 years since I've seen X thing or Y thing." That makes me feel old myself. Sometimes I feel like I do that bit a little bit too much. The reason for it is because a lot of the things that I've read and watched, I did either very recently or a long time ago. There's this bulk of space in here that I didn't watch much anime, I didn't watch anime at all, that I read very, very, very few manga. But yeah, especially now that I'm reaching 30, especially now that that I have a channel, I've been wondering, am I too old? Should I be doing this? And especially now, this year, I'm gonna have a baby. Not this year. It's gonna be born next year. But it's not too far away from it. We're not too far away from that. I'm gonna be a dad who still reads these things, who still, whose hobby is to jump in front of a camera and talk about the new Shonen Jump manga. I'm gonna be discussing with guys like 10 years younger than me or 15 years younger than me why I don't like Jujutsu Kaisen and why he doesn't. It makes me feel a little bit too old. And then my biggest concern comes with the channel. And do you guys, like, in 5 years, in 5-10 years, are you still going to be interested in what a 35-year-old dude, a 40-year-old dude has to say about, you know, again, the new manga that come around, the old manga that have, you know, that I remember from back to good old days, things like that. Are you still gonna want to listen to that, or are you gonna be like, I just rather listen to, you know, to a dude my age? Of course, some of you are gonna be, you know, older as well. You're not gonna stay the age that you are, but you get the point. Like, concerns me a little bit, but I feel like I'm part of a generation, I'm part of an era where I'm allowed to be 30, 40, 50 years old and still enjoy video games and still enjoy comic books and still, you know, enjoy Disney movies. I don't know. I feel like I'm allowed to. And I think that's great, because I think we should all be allowed to. Not even saying, going back to manga, not even saying that, you know, I'm allowed. There's manga like Berserk, it's on this side. There's manga like Berserk where, you know, it's mature teens and it's not for kids, and, you know, Goodnight Punpun as well. It's not for it's not for kids and everything. And it's not even talking about that. I think even when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, when you're 1 billion years old, that you should be allowed to publicly enjoy and appreciate, you know, even more kid-friendly things. And there's definitely manga. I mean, I have a Doraemon plushie right there. That's like, that's a childish thing. That's a thing that I watched from my childhood and that I still love. And, you know, I think that part of that is also going to help me be a fun dad. I think my parents, you know, my dad being a big video game fan, he loved to play video games on his computer. I think that helped me connect with him in ways that, you know, some others probably didn't get to experience that. So I hope that by being this way, I can also help me connect with my kid eventually when they have age to actually talk and, you know, watch things and not just cry. And I think regardless of any of that, I think life is hard. We are not supposed to just live for work, as you may, you know, as life may pretend that we do. There's a lot of bad things, there's a lot of hard things, and to be able to dedicate a little bit of your time to things that you love, that's wonderful. That should be appreciated. I think the only problem comes when you're wasting so much money or wasting so much time in your hobbies that you end up kind of like disrupting your day-to-day life. It's an equilibrium that you have to have. But if you have that equilibrium, I don't think there's anything wrong with being 30 years old and talking about manga and loving manga and reading manga, or playing video games and grabbing the new Pokemon video game. I can afford it now, which I didn't when I was a kid. I spent years asking my parents to buy me a Pokemon game, and they couldn't afford it. So, especially because they also needed to buy me a Game Boy. So now that I can afford it, I mean, fuck you guys. You're not going to be the ones taking this out of me. Even if I'm 30 or 40, I don't care. The important thing is that you're happy. We all need a little bit more of happiness in this world. And if I get that from those little things, which is a little bit ironic, because Goodnight Punpun is one of the darkest, saddest things I've ever seen. But if I get happiness from these things, I am allowed. I should be allowed. And you should too. To have them and enjoy them. Without any kind of like criticism. Without a dude coming to you in the train and be like, oh, you still like that? Fuck yeah, I still like that. And you should too. That's it. Subscribe or whatever.